Okay, so you are live, and it seems as though everybody's able to also talk and connect on Teams. So now it's your meeting now.
Okay, it is August 27th, 2020. It is 8:30 a.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Vince is not able to be at this meeting today, so we have all Marine Board members present and accounted for. Craig, hello. Colleen, hello. Laura, you're there. And then in the room, it looks like we have Larry and Janine and Jennifer in the background, as well as Ashley. Did I miss somebody?
Just so Ashley is actually not with us today. Jennifer is doing multiple duties. She's technical and board assistant, so.
Okay, so I can't see that little corner, so
Yeah.
we will go ahead and proceed with our agenda now. And we had some public comment come in and for the meeting itself. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of the public who had written in about not only the grants, but also about the meeting. It seems to me like this has been a very, very good way to get some public comment. In the past, people would show up at the meeting, and we get a few people once in a while, but it seems like there were quite a few people who decided to comment not only on the grants, but also on the meeting. So I was impressed. And thank you to staff for putting that out there enough so that we got all those comments. So we'll dive right into agenda item number A, the voting facility grants, and Janine Villette, take it away.
All right, thank you, Chair Early, members of the board. This is an exciting opportunity. Historically, this will get added into the agency's timeline as the first opportunity to award non-motorized grants. I think that is an extremely momentous thing to recognize. I know we're very excited. The public is excited. My phone and email are on fire with ideas and discussions with people looking at access opportunities. So this is a very exciting thing. I do want to recognize the board as well as all of the internal staff, the entire facilities program, as well as Brian Paulson and Josh Maholm and Marianne McKenzie, because each of us read nearly 1,400 pages in application materials that were sent, and that takes a lot of time, especially on this compressed grant cycle timeline. So I do want to recognize that. And then if the board is okay, I would like to do 3 grants as a deferred block, and then have the rest be individual consideration, with the final item being the cost increase for Bullard Beach State Park. Did the board have any questions on or concerns about moving forward in that way? And if not, then we will move forward. Okay, hearing none. Oh, yes?
Yeah, just, do you need any kind of a motion to defer these grants or to encourage application in the future for the grants that are in that deferred block?
Yes. If there's no questions on the deferred recommendation, then yes, I would need a motion.
This is Craig. I'd like to talk about it a little bit.
Okay?
The first one is Sutherland.
Yes.
Sound like that's questionable if the city of Novell and the project. Some of the comments question the size of the facility and whether it really would justify the project. Any comments from that?
Yeah, so I looked at the pond. I've had some discussions with ODF and W because they're not going to stock trout. It will be a warm water fishery pond. I've talked to the Friends of Ford's Pond as well as the City of Sutherland. And when you look at where it's located, you have an opportunity to go to the Umpqua River, and then there's Cooper Creek, which is nearby. This provides a different experience than either of those bodies of water. through the city's very extensive master planning process, the idea of having paddling access came out frequently through public comments. And because I question it, it's a log pond. It's not a very big log pond. I do think that the level of development needs some further discussion with the city. I think we can dramatically reduce the number of trailer parking from 15, probably, I would say, down to about 4, maybe 5, as well as the size of the ramp. This is really going to be a paddle access only, and it seems to be really driven by a lot of the bird watchers who want to get out onto the backside of the pond to look at the wildlife and the birds, as well as I'm sure there will be some anglers wanting to catch some bass. But as far as the quantity of use, it will be a low-use boating area.
And Laura, you had your hand up?
I'm going to defer to Craig for a few minutes so I can finish his questioning.
Okay.
You're gonna continue working with the community and develop this project?
Yes, it's a very basic level of development, and I think we can scale it back to put it in a more of a cost right sizing for the amount of boating that's there. But they're a very small community, any kind of boating access, and it will help meet the needs within the community that came up through the master plan process.
Thanks, Janine.
Laura?
Okay, I'm going with procedural questions based on the email we came out late yesterday about the water project being pulled. So in terms of making the motion to defer these projects, we want to talk about the Port Mossy parking now or later? That's a procedural question.
So that is kind of up to the board. If the board would like to move that from a deferred to a recommended consideration, we could. The only reason we were deferring it was because of financial limitations, and with the withdrawal of the Wyeth project, it freed up funding. So if the board would like to take the LC parking project and move it to individual consideration, staff would support that.
Thank you.
And just for a point there too, if we don't use that funding, it can carry over to the round 3. Isn't that correct? And so, I mean, there's not an impetus to be able to spend that money right this minute. We could wait.
Yes, that is correct.
Right, Janine, this great, full schedule, highly rated project, 290 evaluation score. And having been down to the facility for time, so just a lot of years. So I think the project is well justified.
Okay, so Craig, are you suggesting that we take it out of the deferred block and put it into the individual grant considerations?
Yeah, that would be my suggestion. The only concern I would have is to prepare this money. I defer that to Janine.
So we have already withheld the volunteer reduction of $350,000 for this biennium. We anticipate having approximately $500,000 for round 3. And that does not consider any potential cost savings we get between now and round 3. So we would have funds available if the board would like to move that one to an individual consideration.
And is the Port Mossy prepared to use the money?
Yes, Roxy should be on the line. If she isn't already on the line, she should be shortly.
They also have another grant on there, Craig, so it's grant number 1657. So I'm sure that if you wanted to make a motion to defer the first two, 1656, 1668, and then move 1659 to the individual grant applications, then that would be appropriate at this time. No, you don't need to repeat it, but we could use a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. So we would defer the grants for 1656, 1668, and move 1659 to the individual grant applications. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as there is none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll move to part 2 of item A, which is the individual grant applications.
Right.
Janine?
Thank you, Chair Early. Peter Mitchell with the Port of Arlington should be on the line. Peter, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thanks for that.
Hi, Peter. So the first grant is grant number 1640. This is a reconsideration from cycle 1. It's with the Port of Arlington to replace their restroom with a restroom shower building, do some parking enhancements as well as sidewalks, and to improve a paddle access near there. Staff has looked at this, and in looking at the proration across all the different uses, I do think the port needs to provide some additional funds, and so staff recommendation is to challenge the port to increase their match. Peter, would you like to contribute on this?
This is a project we've worked quite a while with the Marine Board on. It's really come together nicely, and you know we'll have some challenges raising the full 100,000. I think we can come up with more money, but I don't know if we can do the full 100,000. But it really is a nice project. ADA, our bathrooms are not ADA compliant, so that's a big thing. Doing the parking enhancement, I think will carry us for a long time into the future. The ability for the Marine Board to help with site access on non-motorized boaters is a big thing. The amount of people coming to the Port of Arlington has doubled since we started doing some launch site improvements to the side of this particular area. So all of these kind of things are tying together nicely in a rather small area. So I don't have any questions other than that.
So I guess, Peter, how much additional cash can you contribute?
Well, I'll have to confer with my board, of course, but we think we could do probably 50,000.
Have you considered just doing the restroom and then reapplying at a later date for the parking and non-motorized component?
I think that's something we absolutely could do. We can phase it. We could do the bathrooms, the walkways, the parking area, and the launch site can be done all separately. But that's our plan for developing this whole area. The bathrooms really are number one.
Chair Early, members of the board, do you have questions?
Right?
Put out a project like that, we're going to raise the overall cost, but we have to mobilize people to get them pumped up.
I think that would be fair, because, the bathroom, usually the molding will, some of it's prorated, certainly by clumping it all together, you get more bidders, and you just get it done in one swoop while you clean everything up. So it's kind of better to do it that way, but, if money's tight, it can't be phased in, and knowing it's gonna cost anything.
Well, I don't want to spend more money than we need to, and if we wind up funding the whole project at the end anyway, why not do it all up front?
Yes.
Well, I think part of the concern was that some of the use is not necessarily attributed to voting activities. And so that was the impetus for increasing the amount of match, correct?
Yes. Yeah, the port has a lot of other activities. They have an RV park right there. We have a tenant-based marina. There's the tie-up dock, as well as a lot of windsurfing, kiteboarding activity that seems to really be increasing in the area. It's become very popular. There's lots of YouTube videos. And then there's also a lot of pedestrians. So the sidewalk and the retaining wall really is tying into their trail around the spit. So there are multiple uses going on here. And I will be the first one to say that these percentages are based on staff observations, feedback from the port. It's not as scientific. Nobody was out there with a clicker counting individuals and what exactly they were doing. It really is an estimate based on observations and port input.
So Janine, if the court can come up with an additional $50,000, pending their approval, how far would that go to? Because you're looking at only 50% of what your recommendation was for the match. So how will that alleviate the non-voting use? In your opinion?
I think it does definitely help. If I look at the overall project and, and recognize that these are estimates based on observations and port input, we may be off by half of that. I still think we would be providing some additional money for non-recreational boating users.
Laura?
I'm kind of in the same boat, so to speak, as Craig. Having spent a lot of my career in civil engineering related stuff, and the cost efficiencies of bundling projects as opposed to piecemealing them. I'm wondering if there's a way, this is kind of a question for the gentleman from the court. I don't remember exactly the rules about user fees or something like that, but for the court to meet that $100,000 kind of coming in from the back end with a user fee on some of those recreational uses that don't count as recreational voting.
We haven't charged user fees. So like our transient dock, there's no fee for tying up there, for using the pump out, for launching boats, for launching paddle boards or anything. We just charge user fees at this point. It's not to say that we could put up an honor system and charge a small launch fee. We just haven't done it today. Because there is some cost associated with charging fees.
Sure.
We've got to maintain it. This is our, we're getting a lot more people out than ever before, but it's still hard. We don't have a big base as far as that is.
Well, I think, Laura, it sounded like you were suggesting the non-voter usage fees, perhaps. Is that what you were suggesting?
Yeah, if there's a way to capture some, get some recovery from the folks, because your voters are paying in to the Marine Board either through their registrations or their access passes or investment taxes. But the windsurfers, kiteboarders, people like that, if there was a way to capture some revenue off them because they're using facilities.
And we can, in fact, after this meeting, as part of trying to come up with this additional funds, the Columbia Board Windsurfing Association has been very supportive on some of our other projects, and we would, they have memberships there, and they offer the grant money, and that would be a way to do it without actually getting funds from individuals that this been collected. And we would go present of all this fun stuff. Yes.
Okay.
Any additional questions regarding, grant number 1640?
I just think that Laura like gets a set of Marine Board steak knives for getting the first boating pun out there this morning, so.
I would agree with Craig and Laura too. I mean, I do like bundling because it does save us money in the end. I would be in favor of encouraging, the Port of Arlington to seek some of that outside funding to help to alleviate the, burden on voters for the non-traditional voting uses. So we need a motion of some sort to move forward on this individual grant 1640.
Before we make a motion, can you summarize around cost, the city has to provide $100,000?
On how much it would impact our budget?
Right.
Okay, so we would be digging into our cycle 3 funding. So it would take our approximate $500,000, if we were to fund the full 100,000, down to about $400,000 for cycle 3. Staff would not recommend we absorb the full $100,000. If the court feels confident they can find 50,000, perhaps the other part of that would be that they see if they can get a grant from the Windsurfing Association for perhaps 25,000, and the board increase our contribution by 25,000.
So I make a motion that we approve, the grant 1640 for the Port of Arlington. And that we request that they, provide, what would that be, 75,000?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, an additional $75,000 in that, right?
So I read it for a second.
I'll second Craig's motion.
Okay, do we need a summary on that, Janine? Are you okay with that one?
I'm good with it, but for the record, the port would be challenged to increase their match by 75,000, and OSMB would increase our match by $25,008.94.
Okay, and so we have a motion and a second on that. And I'd like to say, we would like for you, Peter, to keep us posted on that funding and to let us know how the match is going. So,
Yes.
any other comments or questions regarding grant number 1640? If not, all in favor of approving the motion for grant 1640, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you, Peter, for your time,
Thank y'all very much. Really appreciate it.
and good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, the next grant that's up is grant 1652 with the Yamhill County. Jared Logston, are you on?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Jared. So this is for Rogers Landing in the Newburgh Pool. The tie-up dock is getting there in age, and what is being proposed is some additional maintenance to extend the useful life of that structure. Jared, would you like to add anything on this?
Yeah, Rogers Landing has been increasing, especially in the pandemic era. It seems that our parking lot's full 4 days out of the week before. This project is just regular wear and tear, and try to extend the life of our asset. So we can continue to serve one of the most popular launch spots in the Newburgh pool. We do charge a $3 launch fee, which those revenue numbers have been going up over the past years. We anticipate that trend will continue.
Does the board have any
So, are
questions?
there any questions from the board? So I've been down to this launch site and it seems that your short-term tie-up dock has been degrading at a pretty good rate. It's been at least 5 years that I've noticed it, and it's been over years since I've been there. So anyway, I'm sure that it's gonna just continue to accelerate. Laura?
In the write-up, the letter in the board book, it says that this is a postponed grant from a previous cycle, is that correct?
Yes, we originally solicited for grants in March to bring to the board at the April meeting. And the April meeting was postponed, and then we postponed grants for the June meeting to let the agency have a better sense of where we were financially.
Okay.
So if there are no further questions, then we entertain a motion.
I move that we approve grant number 1652 for Rogers Landing.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for grant number 1652, Mankato County, Rogers Landing, short-term tie-up dock repairs. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you,
Thank
Jared.
you, Jared, for being on the video.
Yeah, thank you all very much.
And good luck with the repairs.
Thank you.
Right. The next grant is 1653 with the Bureau of Land Management. Brian Wolf, are you on the line?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning. So this is for Spring Rec. It used to have a self-adjusting dock. The dock became severely rotted and was removed. This is to put a new dock back in there. Staff is supportive of this. Brian, do you have anything to add?
No, it's just we're putting the same kind of dock there. We have a concrete structure with metal rails. It slides in and out of the water. It just got beyond repairs with the footing, and the foots fell off into the reservoir, and eventually the boat came untethered and started floating away. So we've been enjoying that facility, dock free for about a year and a half now. And we're ready to get our boat docked in next year, and so are our users. It's really a fish camp more than anything, and it is one of the most popular boat launches on the Brownlee Reservoir. We get a lot of use out of Spring Rec.
Does the board have any questions?
Now, I would make a motion that we authorize facility grant 1653 in the amount of $48,950 for state water funds to match $53,900 of applicant match identified in the budget.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any additional discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. 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 Thank you, Brian. Good luck here for repairs.
Have a nice day.
The next grant is 1654, and that was Wyeth. The forest has withdrawn this project. I do want to note that we appreciate them really evaluating whether the project could be completed in the spring, and that they didn't want to obligate funds that may not be able to spend and another facility owner lose out on an opportunity to improve. We do anticipate that they will be reapplying, and have encouraged them to submit an application during the cycle one for the 23 or the 21-23 biennium. So the next one for board consideration is grant six.
Jenny,
Yes,
just to clarify, then we would see this again in April for round one.
at the June meeting of 21 is
Okay.
State Parks. Ben, are you on the phone?
I can't do it.
Ben, was that you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry, I've experienced a few connection challenges, please let me know if I don't come through clearly.
All right, thank you. So this is Nehalem State Park to replace their boarding docks. The docks are in poor shape. We've received a ton of comments about the need to replace these docks. Ben has really been advocating for them enough that he was able to keep the match that he had identified earlier. And that speaks a lot to the importance of this project for state parks. Ben, do you want to add anything for the board?
Yes. So members of the board, staff, thank you so much for the time and for your consideration here. This is long been identified as a project that PRD wanted to get to, but department-wide, several other projects that came in ahead of this. I was fortunate that I was given the permission to go ahead and pursue this. The timing is good too. We feel like fully our current 20-year-old Flint docks from the last time. They, if you can imagine the docks coming with band-aids, that's sort of what we're looking at here. If needed, we can do some other things to be deployed next spring. But we're looking forward to perhaps the opportunity to provide the public with something that's better, new, easier to maintain, and certainly doesn't put preservatives into the Nehalem estuary.
Any questions?
No? I'd entertain a motion then, if there are no questions for the facility grant 1655.
I move that we authorize grant 1655 in the amount of $103,779.00 with the match that is proposed by State Parks.
Second. Okay, if there's no further discussion or questions, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you very much.
All right, the next grant is 1657 with the Port of Alsea. Roxy, are you on?
Are you expecting her today?
I was, to the point where she confirmed things. Roxy, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, thank you, Roxy. So the Port of Alsea is doing a very big, it's actually, all of the in-water structures are being replaced this year. And they want to add a kayak dock. Historically, there was one there. There is a lot of user support to have one back there. Staff is very supportive of spending waterway access grant monies at this location. Roxy, would you like to add things?
Just that I was surprised at the number of letters of support that we received for people wanting a kayak launch here. In fact, it scares me a little bit. There's more traffic, and we're gonna have to figure out how to manage the traffic if all those people show up. But I think it's something that will get in here on the Alsea Day. So hopefully we'll have your support for that.
grant consideration for 1657 kayak dock. Would they like to make a motion? Laura?
Actually, I have one quick question. Given that we brought back their other grant request, is there, and this may be a question for Roxy or for Janine, is there an opportunity for any kind of cost savings by bringing the two projects to construction or implementation at the same time?
Not the two projects because they're different areas, but we're hoping to get cost savings is the fact that you are providing us with a grant for the boat launch. And the upper part of the boat launch will have to be repaved. And so we're hoping, and this parking lot that we're talking about is part of that larger parking lot. We're hoping that by combining the paving for the boat launch and the paving to finish the parking lot at the boat launch, that we'll have some savings there.
Thank you.
So Janine, would it be appropriate to go ahead and address the other one, 1659 at this time as well?
Yes, it would, but would the board like to finish voting on this grant?
Well, we have.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion. We approve grant 1657 for a kayak dock at All State. This is in the amount of $48,000.
Second,
Okay, so we have the waterway access grant funds being allocated to Port of LC for the kayak dock. Are there any additional comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
And then to move into grant 1659, which was brought forward for the parking project. And I would agree with what Roxy said. We have a small amount of paving associated with the maneuvering of the boat ramp. To combine this amount of paving could result in some cost savings because of quantity.
I support the idea of combining projects to get more savings we can with contractors. So I'm sorry, Janine, I'm trying to pull up the deferred grant right now.
No problem. So if the board is looking for a recommendation, staff would recommend the board approve the budget as presented in the staff report for $39,750 of Marine Board funding to match port's contributions of $13,250.
Make a motion, we approve grant 59 with funding $39,750 with the port matching of $13,250.
Second? Is there a second? Okay, sorry. So that is the 25%, I just double checked it on that, so, since I didn't find it yet.
It is
Are there any
25.
additional questions? This would allocate some of the money that we are saving with the withdrawal of the grant 1654.
Yes.
All those in favor of grant number 1659 as outlined in the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you, Roxy, for your time.
Thank you so much to the board, and I invite all of you to come down and see all of our new facilities next spring. They're going to be beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next grant is 1660 with Clatsop County. Steve Meshke, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Steve.
Hi there.
This is a project that staff has been working on for a long time with the county. The board has actually toured this location, and I believe before any of the current board members were here. But this is one more step to getting this project under construction and built. Staff is recommending some specialized consultant work and looks forward to the county applying for materials and construction. Steve, do you want to add anything?
No, just that this has been a project that's worked since like 2003 when I started here, so it's good to finally see some movement. We're actually getting somewhere. We got our permits, and I know a lot of people are excited to get that program improved out there. That's it.
So Janine, on your spreadsheet, the numbers are not exactly the same as what the recommendation is. Am I missing?
Oh, so I am recommending a small amount of waterway access funds on this because we are adding a kayak launch to this facility. It will be basically kind of the opposite end from the launch ramp to help separate use, and will be near single car parking. Because the restroom will be used by all boaters, a small amount is being contributed to the waterway access grant program.
Okay, Frank, you have your hand up?
Yeah. Janine, we fund the consulting services. The board is making somewhat of a commitment to the construction too. Do you have any idea what the cost will be if we pursue the whole scope of this?
Yeah, the estimated project, the total is just under $4 million. It is a significant change with a brand new ramp, boarding docks, paid parking, a short-term kayak dock, a kayak launch, restroom. There'll be a park post. And it's significant. It's significant enough that the county, and feel free to chime in on this, Steve, the county has been saving, and they have approximately $1 million to contribute to this in cash. ODF&W has also committed to being a significant funding agency. We have already received approval for some federal funds for the tie-up dock. So we've been working on this, and the county has been very slowly over this timeline been putting together funding, knowing that they are going to need some cash match. So it's a large project, but will be divided amongst a lot of parties.
So what do you project the board's budget to be?
I would say we will probably be between 750 and about 1.1 million.
Is that overall including this, or is that just for the future portions of it?
That would be for the future material purchase and construction.
What time frame do you project this to occur?
If things go well, I would anticipate the county applying for material purchase potentially this biennium with construction next biennium.
So I think we need to take that into consideration when we were consulting these. It is a substantial project, but from what I see, I think it's justified for committing a lot of funds to it.
Yeah.
So this is what do you think we need to move forward with the consulting services, first of all, in order to be able to further the project along?
I agree.
Okay. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve facility grant 1660 with $35,000 coming from 30 facility grants and 2,500 from waterway access grants, and along with the match from Hudson of $17,939.
Second. Okay, and there is no further questions or discussions. Please say aye in favor of the motion. Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Aye. Thank you, Steve, for your time.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
So the next grant is 1661 with Douglas County. And Deb, are you on the phone?
This is wrong.
Oh, hey, Rocky. Yes.
It's good here as well, but I've got a little bit.
Oh, great, great. So Rocky is the Parks Director for Douglas County. And happy to have you on the phone. So Amber has been one that we have been working on over the years in small pieces. The site has a lot of challenges, and we're recommending that the county have some consulting help to obtain all the permits. And it is going to take some additional staff or resources that are currently we're a very short supply of. So we are recommending this grant to assist the county through this process at the site. Rocky, do you want to add anything?
Oh, sure. Madam Chair, thank you for the board. I want to thank you for the opportunity to work together diligently with teams that were born the cities that I work for to prepare those opportunities. I'm ready to go within just a few days. Also, with have our consulting contract in place and then that work done. We'll go from there and move forward for the construction.
Laura?
Similar to Kurt's question on the previous grant proposal, so what is the conceptual cost of the big picture project?
We are probably looking at about $250,000 to $300,000, and a lot of that will be associated with the stormwater treatment. Through this process, we may end up having to have some pavers, some additional ways to treat some of the material, and that is why the cost is fairly high for this area.
And that area is kind of a nightmare. It's that whole facility is really, really difficult. And I commend Rocky and your crew there because I know that you get phone calls all the time about people who are blocked in. My daughter was one of those just recently, but she didn't call you.
She called you.
It's a much used facility though. It gives access to a good portion of the river. So, and I've seen people in there year round.
I will say we are doing a few unique things here because there is kind of a split season between paddlers and motorized boats to where a portion of the trailer spaces will have some flip down signage. So during the paddle season, the non-motorized season, single cars can park in them. And then during the more trailered season, it would be for them. There will be a few trailer spaces that are reserved year round for outfitter guides who may come in with kayaks or rafts. So we're trying a few different things here to address the multiple types of use and recognizing that parking is a premium.
Well, I would make a motion to authorize facility grant 1661 in the amount of $17,500 for facility grants, $17,500 waterway access grant funds, a match $12,693 from the applicant.
I'll second.
Any additional comments?
Yeah, I just want to say this is the kind of project, or one of the kinds of projects that when we were going through the whole process of creating the waterway access grant stuff, that this is the kind of creativity that we were envisioning.
Thank you. We're trying. We're gonna be learning a lot, but we're gonna try some different things.
Okay, all those in favor of facility grant 1661 as proposed, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, Rocky, for your time, and Deb for being there also.
Thank you.
The next grant is 1662 with the Port of Garibaldi. Mike, are you on? Mike? Yeah. Since Mike is supposed to be on the line, but he's not here, I would propose we skip this one, go to the next one. We're gonna have a staff person reach him to see if he's having difficulty getting onto the call. If that would be okay?
That sounds good, so then we'll move on to 1663,
Yes.
which is the Lower Columbia Estuary Partnership
Yes.
project.
Elaine, are you on?
I am.
Hi, Elaine. I understand you are the new executive director.
I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So this is one of our first waterway access grants underneath the education and voting safety aspect of this new program. We're very excited about this. The Lower Columbia Estuary Partnership is proposing to take people out in their 2 large canoes and teach them about voting safety, waterway safety. It's really a great opportunity. We do recognize that COVID is going to have some challenges, and things may still change regarding COVID regulations and guidance. So, in talking to the Lower Columbia Estuary Partnership, they are committed to completing this, but because of COVID, we recognize that things may change and may either not be able to complete all of the planned trips or have to modify things. So we're committed to basically checking in with them to see how things are going. And if it looks like that they're not going to be able to do all of the trips, we do have a couple options that we can work with them on. We can reduce the scope and amend the grant for a fewer number of trips. And we can also work with them to complete as much as they can and then encourage them to reapply to be able to complete the rest of what they had proposed in the event that COVID does cause some issues. So we will work with them to have this be a successful project and meet their intended goals, whether it's in one grant or potentially a reapply for a second grant to finish the work. So Elaine, would you like to add anything?
No, I think you covered that well. We really have to adapt our programming to COVID, and as everybody else has, kind of become adapted, checking in on the local guidance. One of the trends that we've noticed lately, and we've been talking to partners about, is this kind of gravitation towards a pod structure. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to kind of leverage that and work with some family groups and community groups that are already functioning as pods. So that may be one opportunity for continuing to get people out of the community, particularly in the fall. We're very hopeful that as the year progresses, we can maybe go back to a more normal model.
Great.
How do you recruit people for this program? How do they become aware of it?
So we work with our partners. We have a pretty strong web of other partners that we work with. And
And I'm trying to look at our list of, who we're, leveraging with that, and other community groups, that, you know, we've been working with over the years, in the area, Wild Diversity, some of the neighborhood groups, and, work with them to set this up.
Just primarily local, users, or just, wider than that?
Well, local to the lower Columbia, so from the Bonneville down, we do a lot of work with, school groups, all the way down, you know, from Bonneville down to, Astoria.
So these are users who essentially continue into voting and using, Columbia or the area that they're participating in now, right?
That's on boat. So, you know, they're getting a pretty good amount of time out on the water, 4 hours, and you're kind of getting that opportunity to break down that fear and learn some, important, safety skills. We have existing partnerships with, several, outfitters and guides, and then, some partnerships with other organizations that have lending libraries. So, you know, they get the introduction, and they get to spend a good amount of time out there kind of letting go of the any fear that they may have with the water. And then, we teach them how to access, you know, resources in the future. So hopefully that continues as a lifelong kind of, you know, passion for them. So regarding the, compliance with the outfitter guide, registration that was identified during the process here, you know, Janine, you said that there's a recommendation that they become compliant by December 1st. However, they're talking about doing most of these trips in the fall. Those two things don't really line up together.
Yeah, I actually got an email from Chris Hathaway, late last night about this. And he said that he had been in discussion with Elaine and felt that they would, become an outfitter guide, or they would essentially contract with an approved outfitter guide to be in the canoes, to lead the trips. And we will make sure that that gets resolved before that first trip. But we also would like to, have LCEP be able to start that recruitment process as they're going through that. But I would definitely say we need to contingent that this is resolved before any trips actually take place. But I want them to start the recruitment process so they can get people lined up, to go in the fall.
So, and with the canoes that are being used, or the boats that are being used from their facility, how will those be identified if they're contracting with outside guides or outfitters?
That is something, that I've had some discussions with Cindy and Randy on, and we're going to figure out how to make this work. Elaine, have you guys kind of thought which way you're gonna go on this a little bit more?
No, we're still researching, what our best path is, to, you know, meet the requirement quickly.
Yeah, I will say, having the agency review this was, an interesting thing to come up through this process, and, one that I hadn't anticipated, nor had, Randy, as we talked about this. So we want to support this, and I know LCEP is committed to doing this. We just need to work through the guide aspect. And Cindy and Randy will be very involved in making that, correct for the program.
Laura? Kind of commented on the other one, in terms of having gone through the whole process of creating the water access grants. From the educational side, this is, to me, one of the really great examples of the things we were thinking about having happen. I've seen, with one of the partnerships, boats out on the water in the past, and they appear to be operating in a really safe manner, and everybody always seems to be having fun. So when I read this application, aside from the guide actor issue, I was like, yeah, cool, let COVID. So I like the idea. I like the idea of getting creative about using family pods or some of the recreational groups and after-school groups that are potted to find ways to really make this thing happen in the era of COVID. So, that said, I would like to move that we approve facility grant 1663 of $22,740 in waterway access grant funds with a match of $11,030.80 of applicant match, pending the resolution of the applicant guide issue for Lower County River Estuary Partnership.
Okay, any additional discussion or questions? So, hey, just a comment, so, or questions. It's the hope then that that you can get some groups together this fall, and that's why the emphasis is to go ahead and push this one through at this time versus deferring it until they are compliant with the outfitter guide and resolve their outfitter guide issue. Is that correct?
Yes, we wanted to provide them opportunity to do the recruitment. In talking to them, it takes a bit to do the logistics and to find the participants to do this, which is why we wanted to give them that time flexibility to do some of that while they are working on the compliance aspect of the outfitter guide program.
I have a feeling there might be a few more groups out there that are similar in this, as far as being not compliant, paying their boat operators, but providing a free service. So it'd be nice to be an example of becoming compliant for those types of situations.
We agree. We agree. We think there probably are others out there, and give us an opportunity to show how it is, as well as to have people who maybe are unfamiliar. We can point to LCEP and say, look how they approach to talk to them, and it's just another way that we can grow and educate.
If there are no additional questions or comments, then we'll vote on the motion to approve grant number 1663 for the Lower Columbia Estuary Partnership. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right.
Well, good luck, Elaine. Thank you very much.
I believe Mike with the Port of Garibaldi is on the line now. Mike?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry about the delay.
Thanks, Mike. So we're going to go back to grant 1662, Port of Garibaldi, to replace the piling for the floating restrooms. These are some of the oldest floating restrooms that have been out in the state. They're extremely heavily used. The port has secured all of the permits, which was quite an interesting process to replace the 4 piling. Staff is recommending to fund this with 75% of CDA money, federal funds of $10,500, and to provide state funds of essentially $3,500. Are there any questions? Or Mike, do you want to add anything about the restrooms?
Well, no, we love the working relationship we have with the Marine Board on these. They have been very successful, and they are heavily used. So these piles have been there since the mid-90s, and 2 of them have been really destroyed over the years. So it makes sense to just replace 2 of them and not do all 4 of them at the same time. We're also able to work with one of the local contractors who has a contract with the Coast Guard to do all the piles of the gate boards in the bay. So we're going to be kind of hopping on with that. Overall saving
unable to be used?
Well, in this summer, the pile pretty much failed at the end of last season. And so we haven't been able to get them out this summer, which, given COVID and everything, has not had a huge impact. It is now because we're being swamped, but at the same time, they're not out right now.
Craig, you have a question?
Yeah, like, are you gonna use steel files in the end, or you different type of filing material?
They're gonna be the steel files again, but they're gonna be newer ones, modern ones. But they were done before. It was done under a different time. And, I think they used stuff that had been older before it got used. So we're looking at purchasing construction and the stuff that they're using. There's a lot more resiliency than the older ones.
It's curious,
No, there's a spot of Ghost Bowl and Crab Hunter. Two of them here.
I know those restrooms were used heavily, and even though it's been COVID this year, I'm sure that there have been, they have missed those a lot. I'm a little concerned with just the 1% match, because then Janine answered those questions for me and recognized that, you know, taking care of those restrooms is a pretty good burden on the port itself, and with most of the ports having big challenges due to COVID, lack of resources.
Early in the season, we had to take a loan out to the payroll from industries. So it dropped off and we had another tax to get. There hadn't been any financial support, really the relief tax or need for us. So it's been a challenge.
Well, I would like to make a motion to authorize facility grant 1662 in the amount of $16,800 for voting facility grant funds, $50,400 in federal Clean Vessel Act funds, to match $983 of the applicant match as identified in the budget.
A second.
Any additional comments or questions? The only comment I'd like to make is that it is kind of out of our norm to fund projects with this little match, but given the current situations and challenges within the voting community and the heavy use for this, personally, I think this is very appropriate this time. And leveraging some of our federal partnership funds is also helpful. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Aye.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
So, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. Look forward to relationships as we move forward. Thank you.
Okay. The next grant is 1664, the city of Reedsport. And I see Deanna on the screen. This is to acquire a piece of property to actually have the capacity to park for the Bumblebee launch. As the board knows, we did an extensive amount of grants and improvements at Rainbow Plaza. We had hoped that during that permitting process, we would have obtained the waterway access program and be able to do the permits and the whole process as one very large project to address both non-motorized and motorized needs. That didn't happen. The property owner wasn't at a point of willing to sell additionally. Now here's this opportunity. Parking is definitely needed to help separate use as well as to create something specifically for non-motorized voters. There is a road that goes through the property. It makes it a little unique. In talking to the city, they increased their match. They essentially doubled it. And so staff is recommending that we do provide $50,000 of waterway access money to secure land for parking with the Bumblebee launch. Deanna, do you want to add anything?
Sure, yes, I would like to. We've been addressing the parking issue there for many years, and, it was basically, the private lot was allowing us to, access proper parking during the busy months, and that's changed over the years, and in our opportunity to, they offered us an opportunity to purchase the property. But the main reason that we, came to the Marine Board is because, our Main Street program, we had the opportunity to have a rare student last year, and she got a grant to get a kayak launch, to add to the Belvedere boat launch. So that's gonna be an enhancement that will be, added in the next couple of weeks. We had it coming, and now have signage with, getting us the river trail, and it's close proximity to Schofield Creek, which is a really popular paddling creek that has limited access right now. So this would allow us to retain the parking and get it back, and we would, improve it in the future. And we'd like to thank you for the opportunity for applying for this fund.
Right?
Yeah, that's being purchased the property. It appears that as far as development costs are going to be involved, paving, the road work, putting a ramp in, et cetera. Do you have any idea what those costs look like?
There's actually currently a ramp at the site. It's an older ramp, and it is, was built like back in the 50s. I think it was the original ramp, to the Alpha River from the area before Rainbow Plaza was developed. We actually maintain the dock there, and, don't have any plans right now to upgrade it or make it any different, other than adding the, kayak launch to it. It's actually a floating launch that will attach to the side of the dock. As far as the improvements, at this point, we have some pavement there, but we anticipate, grading and rocking the new launch. Sure, we would like to, of course, be able to pave it and, try to for parking. But right now, it's going to be, basically graded and rocked. I mean, that should suffice for several years. The busiest parts of our use for these launches generally between June and October, so the rock, area should be good. Good.
So the grant that was applied for, that your student applied for, what did that fund? What will that fund?
Yeah, so they actually applied for a grant through, Travel Southern Oregon Coast. They have been able to provide, some kayak launches. It's actually called a rescue launch. The pretty good size facility. It creates a shape for kayaks to be able to, enter the water, and it'll launch alongside that dock. But that value of that grant was about $12,000, and then they also added, the signage, which will actually give, some identification of other launches in the area.
Well, it sounded like it would be a nice acquisition that helped to separate your user groups just a little bit and alleviate some conflicts. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility. I served for the dedication of it, and it is incredible how used it is.
It is. We're very proud of the facility, and you're exactly right. I think that the only access right now, they can use, the Bumblebee launch for non-motorized access, but if you, without the parking there, it's kind of difficult. And then, it would be great to be able to separate them, because we do have the large parking areas for the boats and the trailers at Rainbow, and occasionally, someone with a kayaker is gonna take up less space.
Any other questions or concerns? Not, I would entertain a motion.
So I move that we authorize grant number 1664 in the amount of $50,000 from Waterway Access Grant funding to match the $53,850 of the applicant match. for the Bumblebee parking acquisition for City of Bridgeport.
Is there any additional questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Chair Early,
Thank you, Deanna, for being here.
Chair Early, if I could just real quick, I want to say, Board Member Jackson's mentioned several times the significance of this being the first time on voting on waterway access funds. And I think it's important. This one is really exciting. It's really hard to get public land next to water these days. And so this is an example of land that's going to be available to the public for a long time that wouldn't have been available without the waterway access. And the city of Reedsport's been a good recreational boating partner. Would encourage everybody to go down and check out what they've got going on there at Rainbow Plaza in this area. And just also want to acknowledge the work that Janine's done to make sure that this first round of waterway access grants included something like a property acquisition so that we could demonstrate the good things to come with this program. So.
Thank you.
It is what Member Jackson keeps saying was envisioned through all those meetings, and it's nice to see it come to fruition.
Indeed.
Yes. All right, the next grant is 1665 with the city of Estacada. Matt, are you on the phone? Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm sure the board noticed an additional section in the staff report about an anticipated change of use on the water body. And I did this in part because the city even acknowledged that this will probably increase use. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think this is a suitable water body to add some additional paddle access to it. One is going to disperse use, but it will change some of the boating patterns that are happening on that. And I just want to make sure the board is aware of that. This is a good project. It has gone through a significant public process. There is a lot of comments about the need to disperse use because right now it's all at one end of the lake. But it's kind of premature for the construction. It's going to take a bit to get the permits, but to show support for the efforts that the city's doing, I am recommending that we give some funding to have their consultant initiate that permit process. And essentially what it will be is they will get everything prepared and submit it in. I do not anticipate the permits will be received by the end of the biennium. So the grant is to get it into the process, at least to the point that they're out for public comment. And that will let this be substantially underway towards the construction of this new paddling access. Matt, do you want to contribute anything?
No, I don't think so. I just want to say that we're appreciative of the city of Estacada as a new partner with the board. It's a new relationship for us and a new sort of uncharted territory in creating something like this as an asset for residents and voters alike. I appreciate the new council throughout this process. It's been important and will continue to be important as we move from permitting to construction. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Janine, in part of your staff report, you indicated that staff expects to see some rulemaking presented, and that in light of the change in usage that you're anticipating of this water body?
It's a combination. Josh, Randy, and I have all received an increase of concerns expressed from motorized boaters as well as non-motorized boaters about congestion, speed, weight, blocking the ramp. And so I really believe that it's a matter of time before one would come anyway. I think the creation of this site will probably speed that up. And that's a discussion that the board can have on whether or not you would want to look at having rulemaking in conjunction with the completion of this facility to kind of be a more proactive position, or something you would wait on for the routine petition process, but I do believe rulemaking would be submitted somewhere within the future, asking for some kind of rule, whether it's speed, whether it's slow no wake, whether it is potentially no towed water sports. You know, and mind you, there's not a lot of towed water sports, and as you can imagine, with it being so narrow with the lead of a rope with a towed sport, making some of those turns, it is complicated, and having paddlers out there, it is challenging. So I do think rulemaking is going to happen anyway, but this would definitely should be something the board should consider on whether or not to bring it up earlier.
So, wondering that we don't know the full scope of this yet, I mean, it would probably be a good idea to look at it as a future agenda item and consider, whether we wanted to direct staff to, consider the change in usage and a possibility of some rulemaking to be open to that area for public comment. But this is, it looks like it's just the first step, as you identified. You said that this is going to be the beginning and support of using some of the waterway access money for getting this rolling.
Yes.
Any comments or questions? Laura? You have to turn your mute off. Laura?
Sorry, we had quite a dozen minor in the house. I think it's important to get the project rolling because I think some of the stuff that's going to come out of the permitting process in terms of requirements from the public agencies, especially on things like endangered species, is going to help inform a rulemaking process in terms of if there's mitigation and enhancement sites or certain protections that need to be put in place on the lake. So I think going forward and getting an understanding of what those issues and implications are is really important.
I would agree.
So that I move that we approve grant 1665 in the amount of $35,000 of waterway access grants to match $102,500 from City of Estacada.
Second. Any additional comments or questions? All those in favor of grant 1665 as outlined in the motion?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, none opposed, so we will continue to move down to 1666.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Matt.
So now we're at grant 1666 with Coos County. John, are you on the line? Wonderful. Thank you, John. So we're going to have back-to-back grants with Coos County. Both of them are on 10 Mile Lake. The first one is the gangway replacement. Staff did challenge the county to come up with some additional funds to address the amount of non-recreational boating use that use the multi-use dock. The county has met that challenge. An email was sent earlier to the board showing that commitment. And so staff is recommending that we do fund the replacement of these two gangways. It definitely is an ADA accessibility issue. John, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I mean, the gangways were built in 1985, so they're at different slopes, and, I mean, they're not ADA, and even elderly people have a hard time walking down the steep ends of the gangway, so they're in need of replacement very badly, but, something ADA compatible, that, at least the new ramp would be a slow, a nice gradual slope down. So,
unfortunately not been able to be utilized.
Well, they're still utilized, both of them. The gangway on the multi-use dock is just a line with the dock itself. People can walk down, but not all people can walk down.
There is a photo in the staff report showing that the dock was closed for repair. When John took over the county parks department, he had staff spend a lot of time and energy replacing deck boards and trying to stabilize the existing gangways, to make some improvements. That has been done, but I was trying to find photos in our archives to give the board a perspective of what these gangways looked like and how they were located. And unfortunately, that was the best one I had.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions? So I think you said, go ahead, Frank.
No, would it be combined in one project, cost efficiency?
Yes.
So when we approve them, if we approve, yes, we're approving the both of them, we done together.
That is correct. Both gangways, and if the board approves the installation of a kayak launch, it would all be one project.
Thanks.
Okay, and do we need to do those separately, Janine, or can we bundle those together?
If the board would like to make a motion to approve grant 1666 and 1667 as recommended by staff, they could do that as one vote.
So moved. Second. Any additional questions or comments? All those in favor of grant 1666 and 1667 as outlined in the motion and the staff report, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you, John, very much for your time.
I'd like to thank you guys. It's gonna be a big improvement for the 10 mile. That's the county's biggest voting facility. Modernized. Really appreciate that.
Well, I know you guys have been busy because I came down in there one day and the parking lot was completely full.
Yeah, so we're, and right now, it needs that too. Yeah, it's been heavily used. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Janine, we are down to 1669.
Wonderful. Marielle, are you on?
Hi, I am.
Wonderful. So this is our second waterway access grant application through the education and safety aspect. It's an exciting opportunity. Some supplemental information was sent to the board. It actually is in 12 videos. It's going to be 24 videos. 12 will be in Spanish with English subtext, and 12 will be in MAM. I believe that's how it's pronounced, Mariel, MAM. And we will have Spanish subtext. So we are very excited about this opportunity. There is not much that the agency's ever done in any other language. We have noticed an increase of Latino population, boating, renting boats. So this is a very exciting opportunity. And Marielle, do you want to add anything to this?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair Ford and staff for considering this for this time and having us here around this certified for this very unique and important opportunity. I just want to say I'm the project manager at Blue Northwest, and the Latinx community of Oregon is a significantly growing part of Oregon's population. And not only that, they're an incredibly active user group. A lot of what we do at Beacon Fest is to engage these communities in the outdoors in a way where they feel empowered with a sense of stewardship toward programs in an active, engaged, and safe way to diversify the outdoors culturally. We do a lot of outdoor trips with the Latin community to foster this. Of course, COVID has changed things a bit, but over the course of COVID-19, we have focused on water sports in particular as a way to safely socially distance and let people participate in the outdoors, and the interest has been enormous. We have had trips where 20 to 40 people have signed up within days of us partnering with our community partners like Energy Kayaking. We've been doing a lot of kayaking and paddleboarding trips there with them. And the community that we serve and we work with is incredibly excited to get opportunities. Now, I think that with this project in particular, it will be an incredible way to enhance and increase and more friendly drive this very active user group through the Marine Board services and to safely and actively engage in the water sports in Oregon. And Beacon Northwest is uniquely positioned to be this partner with you all and work with you on these educational and outreach videos as we not only do translation services for this type of information, but we translate it culturally as well. We make sure that all materials, all videos that we produce are done with native speakers. Beacon Northwest is a Latinx open operated organization. Our executive director for Haiti is this year as well, so we can speak to that. But we work with people within these native communities, including Mam, which is an indigenous Guatemalan language and community that is actually quite large in Oregon, especially in particular counties that have a lot of waterway access. So we are excited to be a part of this with you all, and I will leave it for you as well to make some comments here, but if you have any questions, we're just very thankful and excited to work with you all.
Great.
Morning. I don't, that was great, but it's real, it's good to you. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have, and we're again really excited to you.
Greg, you have a question?
Curious about your CITES Guatemalan language.
So that's a language, it's a Mayan language. It's spoken primarily in Guatemala and the south part of Mexico, and also in the east of the state. It is a growing population here in the state of Oregon. We are doing quite a bit of work with Oregon Health Authority around COVID-19, and we've noticed that this community is growing in specific areas such as Lincoln County, Erie County, and Washington County. So we are excited to engage this community. We've already done quite a bit of work with the community, with the Mosque community, but like Rael said, we are seeing that they are doing quite a bit of other activities, so it would be great to get this information out to them as well.
How are these videos being distributed? How are you measuring success?
So the way that we're distributing videos right now for Oregon Health Authority, we are partnering with 200 of the community-based radio stations in the state of Oregon. So all the videos that we produce for Oregon Health Authority are vetted and approved by them. Once they are approved, then 200 plus partners produce these videos through their social media platform or digital platform. We intend to use the same network of community partners across the state for them to help us produce this information. We would obviously make these videos available to the Marine Corps as well, so we can distribute these as well, and to the partners who do it. One of the things that I personally noticed when we go to stores like Exadventure or REI or the Fish or Fishing World is that they don't have a lot of Spanish content. So we hope that they also use this type of information out to the communities that they purchase.
And I'd also like to add to that, Beacon Northwest and a program that we run called PGM, which is a Latinx-based news information on Facebook. We have a reach of hundreds of thousands of the Latin community all across the state of Oregon. So our reach is very large in and of itself, and with these videos that we're creating and other content, we would absolutely acknowledge the Marine Board would be a part of this. We would have the logo on there as well as acknowledgement of this grant. pretty fast.
Do you have ways of making how successful this will be?
Yeah, all of the meetings that we review, we are able to track the analytics, so, and the engagement. So we'll be able to tell the number of people that saw all the reactions that we get, any comments or questions that perhaps have been generated in this video. We are even able to see demographics, so gender specific, age group, and specific regions where these videos are being viewed. We will be creating analytics reports at the end of probably every 3 videos or every quarter, and we'll be reporting this back to you so we can measure the effectiveness and the reach that we have with each video.
Thank you.
Lauren, what was the number of videos again, Janine?
24.
24. That's impressive. So I like the whole idea of collaborating with the board to validate the content that you're putting in, make sure it's consistent with our messages. I assume that you're going to work with film production companies so that there's sort of a consistent branding and a sort of consistency between all the videos. You mentioned your partnership with Oregon Health Authority, and that kind of clicked another thing into me. It was just the issue of, considering what content for these might be, including things like health and fitness on the water and some things that kind of bridge the gap between multiple agencies.
Indeed, and mental health is another big concern right now for Oregon Health Authority. So I think there are ways that we can use some of the other activities that we will be, or the safety measures that we are going to talk about and related back to that aspect of health. So, and yes, we are happy with it. In fact, that is part of the process. All of the scripts that we write for the videos are vetted and approved with the agency. So it's working with you to make sure that the information is accurate and is being conveyed in a way that is that aligns with the way that you convey the messages.
Thank you.
Sounds like a very creative and probably a very much needed project. So, kudos to you. I'm sure a lot has gone in on the back end to all of the context for the videos as well as the project.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion for grant number 1669? I move that the approved facility grant 1669 in the amount of $100,000 from the Waterway Access Grant Fund match $25,000 of applicant match.
Second.
Did we want to make any kind of a, part of the motion to be the grant would recommendation is contingent upon acknowledging the funding source? I know they said they were going to, but to have it in the motion and part of the grant would probably be appropriate. Yeah, so should I restate everything for the rest? Sure, that would be great. I move that we approve facility grant 1669 of water funding to match $25,000 of the applicant match, contingent upon acknowledging funding source for the final videos.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. I just think it's important to have those kinds of things in writing and on record. So, are there any additional comments or questions? Just again, it's pretty exciting that we're being able to even consider these types of grants, whereas before this grant cycle, we were not able to because we didn't have the Waterway Access Grant funds. So, congratulations. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, and thank you very much for your time, for being on. I know you both been here since the very beginning of the meeting, so thank you.
Thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're down to the cost increase. Daryl, are you on the line?
I am.
Good morning. So this is a cost increase to Grant 1583. It's Bullards Beach State Park. The bids did come in very high. There were 2 bids. They were very close. State Parks dug deep and they found 25% cash match. And they are asking us to fund the 75% of the cost increase to have the debris boom installed. Daryl, do you want to add anything?
Sure. Just a quick update. Last night, we did receive a grant for the new dock at Bullards Beach. And for this biennium, we got a grant for the installation of the new debris boom. We do have the debris boom on site, and that's been fabricated and delivered in late 2019. And then this phase of work is to install that debris boom that's currently sitting there. 2 bids we did get for both of these things. One was 191,000, the other one was 194,000, so they were less than 1.5% from each other, but they did well exceed our engineer's budget. And the reason is there are several archaeological sites in the lake facility, and the state historic preservation office, the Quail tribe, has required us to do all construction work on park surface, so either the asphalt parking lot or concrete ramp, but the location of the debris boom will not allow the shore-mounted crane to reach. I recently contacted the low bidder, Billard Green, and they explained to me that the cost would have been significantly lower if they could have tugged their barge and crane from Tuesday Park, but extremely unsafe given the cost for barge and towing the barge with crane. So they are having to actually get the barge transported on land from Seattle down to Bandon, assemble it, put it in the water, and take it back. So that was the huge cost that didn't get captured in original estimate. So as we mentioned, we're asking for that balance between our current funding balance of 106,000 to the 191,000 the bid of the 84,000, and 75% of that free board, 25%.
Thank you, Daryl. Any questions or comments? I'm just curious, for the archaeological site, it must have been something that was known when the original application went in. I'm just curious why all the issues with where the work can be done and the temporary frames, why that wasn't captured earlier in the process.
So I think that was, but we were unaware of the data that we had and we were getting from Rainbow and Quality Engineering, if I'm wrong, are for debris booms or piling that put in like large amount of cranes, typically like Fort Island or Columbia River in the bay, those are readily available. But in at Bandon and elsewhere, there are none. So I think there was an assumption during the estimate that one could be towed down from East Bay to the park, and not realizing that these contractors would have to go all the way up to Seattle to give that part.
That is correct.
Well, I'm sure it was disappointing for you because this has been kind of a big multi-phase project, and it's a much needed finishing portion of it. So I'm sure that you were all disappointed to see that cost increase come through.
Yeah, we certainly were. And, if we did not have the debris boom sitting down there, so that was $22,000 of grant. So it was sitting down there on the site, maybe we reevaluate and look at different options to get this installed. It's very hard now with investment sitting down there, and also the investment of $200,000 new docks that are there from last year. We just feel that it's important that we come up with the money from our side to help support this and finish this. This is the last component there. It will be done for many years.
And it'll get done before the wear is throwing all that debris at you.
Yeah, the main water work period is from October 1st to February 15th. So we fixed this so that the contractor can start working early October to avoid April, November.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve the cost increase of $63,419.34 in voting facility grant funds to match an increase of applicant match of $21,139.78 to complete the project for 1583 at Millard's Beach. Questions or additional comments?
Just one question, we know that the barge, that the appropriate crane is available and will be here during that time?
We haven't entered into contract yet, but yeah, we're assuming so, and that's something we can confirm if needed, but they're under contract to start that work actually prior to the other organizers prior to going in October.
Okay.
So all those in favor of the cost increase on grant number 1583 as motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Daryl, for your time. I know you've been on the meeting for quite some time too.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for, and special thanks to engineering your community. You guys have a relatively small staff for the amount of work that they do. Sometimes I don't think that gets fully recognized, but I really appreciate all that you've done, Janine, with your crew.
Thank you, and same to you, Gerald, we appreciate the partnership.
Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you. So on that note, I would also like to thank Janine and her staff, and Taylor and Garrett, the Marine Board, for, kind of making our homework a little bit easier. I mean, we have a lot of pages to read, which we recognize, but for me, you have really brought some fiscally responsible recommendations to us, and kept our bottom line in definitely in view. So also was really excited to see how you utilize the waterway access grant funds for the first time. So I just would like to say thank you.
You are very welcome. This is exciting. People are very jazzed about it. This current cycle that the board just voted on had a very compressed timeline. For cycle 1, we're going to be announcing applications that will be taking them December 1st to March 1st. In talking to a lot of folks, especially nonprofits, non-governmental, having a longer lead time will definitely help them. I think cycle 1 is going to be extremely competitive, and it wouldn't surprise me if we saw at least twice the number of grants as what the board just considered to go through. So it's fantastic. And just so you know, with all the modifications, the board approved today $1,032,391.88 to go out there and benefit the recreational voters of the state. So thank you very much.
Laura?
I was second what Gerald said, but I also really want to express my appreciation to Janine and team and some of those outside teams, including Josh and Marianne, just in working with some of these organizations that aren't public works organizations, that aren't voting necessarily like voting specific organizations, and working with them on the creativity as to how to make these things work. I'm thinking especially of Viva and Lower Columbia. So, great thanks to all of you guys for making this first cycle, and can't wait to see what cycle 6 comes up with, or cycle 1 for next
So Janine, we won't see any of the waterway access grant funds available for cycle 3 then?
No, I do anticipate we will have some money. We potentially will have about $200,000 to $250,000. I have kind of started putting the word out for people to think about things, but I wanted to get through this process before we let folks know that we will be taking some cycle 3 applications.
Great, that's wonderful. So did anybody else have anything else to add for our meeting today? So, and I did have a thought in going through all of these, grant applications, and it may not be feasible, but was wondering how difficult it would be to put together a statewide map that showed where the grant applications were, with perhaps different stars for like a deferred grant and maybe a cost overrun and then the original grants, just to kind of get a statewide picture of where the money is going to be going for this grant cycle. That kind of came out of one of the comments that I read.
No, that is something we've talked about doing. Right now, I have a staff person by the name of Joe Severson, who is our GIS and planning person, and he is busily working on GIS maps for the board's October meeting about the rest of the lower Willamette. So he's been kind of redirected to start working on that. But what we anticipate in the future is to have a piece on our website that will show where all of our grants are, where all the applications are. Members of the public can click on it and see how much money was awarded, how much match was there, and it will be a live aspect that will be something that we built on. So it will show, as an example, we'll have the current biennium, and they'll be able to click on that layer and see what was done that biennium. Then it will have the new one. So that is what we are going to be going toward, is having something like that there available. One, to remind the voting public of how much money and how, across the state, this money is going as a visual that will be buildable for many, many bienniums to come. But if the board is looking for more of a stagnant snapshot, we can definitely incorporate that into our process as well.
I think that would be really helpful. Love the idea of interactive maps, but just even having a map that might be in the board book would have been quite helpful. I found myself toggling back and forth between having Google Maps up and then trying to learn, still trying to learn where all the facilities are. It would be great to have a big picture.
Okay. And we did look at the applications, and some of them are very cumbersome. So we thought to help with this, we will actually add dividers. So it'll be like, here's the application, here's the permit component, here's the letters of support. So if you don't want to read through all of the permit, you can, go to the comments to the application. Because we also noticed that many of the applicants do not always put things consistently in the same order in the application. So we'll try to clean that up as well and make it a little more user-friendly for people to go through. Were the method that we gave the public comments to, was that easy to use? Or it was one PDF with dividers so you could go through them, or would you prefer to have it as separate files with each grant?
I like the public comment block, because there were some of the letters where a person was commenting on multiple applications and maybe multiple geographic applications. Wondering, going back to the map concept, especially since this is the first time we've actually extended waterway access grants. If just a snapshot map as a result of today's grant awards to be able to show the location, not just where grants were awarded, but where grants that were either 100% or were supplemented or partnered with voting access grants. Just to again show some of those naysayers about what this project is going to help go towards, I think it would go a long way in terms of public relations. community relations.
No, that's
Yeah,
a
that was
great.
what I was saying about the different colors of stars, you know, just to show something that would be, you know, to highlight those special projects.
Yeah,
So normally after we have a board meeting, staff puts together sort of like a press release type thing that we put out to the world. And what I'm hearing is in this one, we should include at least a visual of some of the geographic decisions that show waterway access and other grants and where they happen. So we can certainly do that as part of our post-board meeting public information that we do.
that would be great, thank you.
Laura, did you have another comment?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, well, seeing as there is none, once again, thank you to Janine, to all the staff here at the Marine Board for your accessibility and for your unwavering answers to our multiple questions.
You're
So,
very welcome.
our meeting for August 27th is officially adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, have fun.
We'll see y'all